today. My name is Tiara Walton. I'm the communications intern with the QEP, and today we have a special guest. His name is Mr. JJ Maxwell. He is the founder of New York-based J2 Media. His areas of expertise include media, strategy, branding, creative direction, and publicity. Maxwell graduated with a Master's of Science, a science degree in media management at the New School in 2012. And a Bachelor's of Science from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University in 2007. He has worked with organizations and clients in media and creative strategy roles, including Viacom, Hypebeast, Raleigh Denham Workshop, Public School, The Cools, Condé Nast Digital, the Andy Warhol Foundation, Portland Institute of Contemporary Art, Makita Eyewear, and Defend Oregon. He has spoken at media events and panels for companies, including New York's Internet Week, Details Magazine Annual Text and Tastemaker Summit, the Museum of Modern Art, New York University Stern School of Business, and Council of Fashion Designers of America. Ooh, isn't that an entrance? Without further ado, we would like to welcome Mr. JJ Maxwell. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
Thanks for having me. I kind of want you to do like my phone message after all that.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, sorry, I did not know we were going to put that all out.
Yeah, we give our guests quite an introduction.
Yeah, I like it.
So can you please share with us how your company, J2 Media, came to be, and also maybe your show too?
Sure. So like you said, I moved to New York. It'll be 6 years actually next month. But I was working in media back in Portland, Oregon. And I started when I moved here right, I was going to grad school and young, and I started right into the agency world, which I think a lot of people, if they want to do PR, media, journalism, is a great way to learn a lot, really, in a fast-paced environment. So I worked for a boutique fashion agency that did press and wholesale, so like sold to the stores, to the Barneys. So I got to, I was on the PR media side as the digital media director, but I got to watch both of those. So I started that, worked in agency for 2 years, balancing like 12 to 13 clients, doing fashion weeks all around the world. It was crazy. So, and then I went into e-commerce and digital startup in fashion and worked as a media director there. And then a few years ago, I decided to branch out on my own and start my own media company. So I now work in different realms, from still media direction and publicity for a few fashion brands, Raleigh Denham and Throne watches. And then I also am now the fashion and art director for a new television series that will be airing in January through Viacom, but it's looking like it might be on Netflix or at Viacom Properties, which is exciting. We don't know yet. They're in the bidding right now, but it's always good that a lot of people want it. So, and it's called Forward, and the show's an 8-part episode series that really is almost like a fashion magazine on air. So we really highlight the tastemakers and influencers in the industry from around the world. We traveled everywhere to showcase them. And as the fashion and art director, I work with the producers and really make each episode beautiful and that can resonate with the consumers that are going to watch it, young, 18 to 30-year-olds, and make it a hit, hopefully. So that's what I'm doing.
We'll be looking forward to it. So, as far as your show, how do you prepare for the different episodes and the writing materials, meetings involved with the producers of the show?
So this is my first intro into broadcast. I did a few producing stuff for the Today Show, but this is the first time where I really worked on a television series starting from scratch. So in regards to the writing, I work with the producers and we make treatments and like a film broadcast treatment for each episode. It's almost like a 1 to 2 page document where you label each scene and you where it's like an interview session with Betsy Johnson or someone like that. I want it to be a 2-angle in her studio so we can see all of this, or outside in Paris, wherever we're shooting. Or as the art and fashion director, I work with them to write these treatments, to put this visual ideas on the page for everyone involved, from the PAs to the camera to the hair and makeup to the models to big sets, because we have 30 people on a set for a huge video shoot for a music video that's part of the series, or it's just an interview like this, so it all depends. And that's what the writing involved in that is, to really make it easy, be in budget, and make it time friendly, because that always increases the budget. And then when it comes to interviews, I would work with producers, whoever the subject is, to really develop this interview, develop this story, and we know, so we can, as they interview them, as they interview this process, we know the story can be told through these questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have your foot in, well, not even your foot in the door, but you have a strong feel for the fashion industry. Where is the future of writing in the fashion industry, and especially those continuing the popularity of digital publications and e-commerce?
So that's where the future, I mean, I love print. Print is never dead to me. I love picking up an amazing New York Times or amazing big publication and taking it with me on the road, but the future is all digital. You know, Details magazine, which is a huge men's fashion from Condé Nast, just got completely shut down yesterday. Like, I literally, on my flight here, was calling my friends who are the fashion team. They're like, do you have a job? I'm a free agent now. Like, so that's another magazine that's folded. So it's all about digital. By digital, I mean Refinery 29. Lucky magazine now is Lucky Shops, where it's only digital because they have millions of people who would go there and could also buy. So involved being with writing, that's really where the focus will be, digital and social. And that's like, you can still give this great story of a brand. It might be a little more short, concise, and fast paced, but it still can be consumer friendly. So for people going into media, going into fashion PR, going into creative in the industry, it's being more short, concise, that can, but still a great voice that's unique for this fast-paced digital world that can also lead to directly, the great thing about digital when it comes to fashion is it can directly link to an e-commerce buy. So, yeah. So, and if we don't have that, I wouldn't have a job. So.
Highly understandable. I like those magazines and those the digital part where you can just click on it. It's like, oh, it's right here. And they have it right connected to the store.
Yeah, Condé Nast is launching a huge e-commerce where they took Style.com was like the Bible of fashion, where you could go after every fashion month and look at all the runway shows. But now they took over Style.com, and now it's just completely where you can buy the clothes.
Oh, wow.
So they've taken it all over just to...
Do they do like the little style up?
Style looks, directly linked to Vogue.com now, so that was a huge transfer shift, all about digital.
See, I love those things.
Good, look it up. I think they launched I think they're launching this month actually, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, look it up. Okay, so you have a tremendous experience in art and fashion. So how has your work in these areas been related to writing?
I write every day. I mean, obviously via emails, correspondence is so important, knowing your audience, but also writing for, when it comes to the media direction role with Raleigh and Public School and Throne and all these fashion brands. I was the PR and media director for, or still working as. You know, it's really important when it comes to the press releases and the brand bios and getting these stories out there that are going to make these consumers attached to, make these store buyers, the Barney's, Nordstrom buyers, pick their brand over the hundreds of others that it gets sent to. So I write every day, and I want to have a clear message that always tells a great story.
Right.
So, yeah.
I have a question. It's based off of your LinkedIn. Do you know how to speak Spanish?
Yo hablo español poquito. Yeah, but I do know it a little bit. I'm actually just signed up. I'm going to start learning Arabic and Mandarin, I think. That's but I want to do the basics. I signed up for next year because I think that is the future of like the language.
So how has that like helped you in your profession?
It has helped me, well, for instance, we just shot tons of Mexico City for my fashion series, and somehow I was the lead correspondent with all, because we had to also go to Guadalajara, and we had to have very heavy security, because Viacom made it happen, because it's not the safest area, and also the Mexican government had assigned us people, because if anything happened, it was great. I felt like the president. There's like 8 SUVs. But I was like the lead, speaking Spanish to everybody, and all the security guards became my best friend. But like, so I was like in there with producers who didn't know Spanish, negotiating the times where we're shooting, making sure we're all cool here. Do we have all the titles? You know what I mean? So it always helps. So, but I'm not fluent.
I just had to ask. How would you describe writing in the world of media, digital marketing, and advertising?
It's the same idea, but even shorter, fast paced. It's kind of like what I was saying with treatments. You know what I mean? You want to when it comes to the marketing pitch, like when you're trying to obtain a client, have a unique idea and have an awesome tagline. And the tagline can always be worked out and later on, like, depends on the client, if you know the client, but have a unique thing that can translate into digital, into social, into, so if it was, you know, the new pioneers, or we are the new pioneers, I'm working on this thing right now involved with that, like, I know the tagline can be a little more lengthy when we're in front of this huge advertiser to explain it, but then as it goes down through the digital marketing aspects, it can be, we are pioneers on the tagline at the end of the commercial, or new pioneers hashtag. Like, I always think of it in a level marketing experience, because that's where you have to go. You have to go from broadcast to digital, because every show will have a website and now an Instagram or whatever. So I think of it in those writing terms in all those different levels.
How do you describe your strategies, like the way you develop new strategies?
It's pretty manic. I am. My brain's kind of weird. Sorry, I don't know. It's like my brain's kind of weird. So I like. Not all my ideas are that smart, but I'm like a tiki-tiki-ta-ta, you know what I mean? So I always write everything down. Even if it's a bad idea, I will write it down and sometimes I look back and go, ugh. But sometimes they're like genius, and my assistant is the most amazing. She's amazing. And she just sits there and doodles it down when I'm getting, like, I literally will pace around her and like think these ideas. She's like, but then next time I'm like, yes, we did it. So yeah, just write it all down.
So another question: are any of your bad ideas sometimes transformed into like great ideas?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of team. Like I'm working on a huge project right now through Viacom for a different sector that I had this idea about female empowerment, and it was a good idea. This was a good idea, but it was very bare bones. But how I wanted to kind of show these new women, because all this, I hated all this like equality, you know, pay, which needs to happen. It's 2015, right. You know what I mean? So I just hated that the women were still struggling. So I wanted to do this new branding for like a Dove or a like CoverGirl. We don't know the sponsor yet. They have to pitch it, but where it's like called The Commute, and it's like from their first so you don't know it's a woman yet, but it's like I wanted to get like their eyes going to work. So I want to get this 16-year-old who might be the first ever to play baseball, like putting on her cleats, and like this amazing fighter pilot who's the first in the UAE, like in the commute to work. So that was my idea, and then I sat with a team and I gave this broad idea, and I'm like, oh, and you should talk to Asia Brown, the mayor of Compton, the youngest mayor of Compton right now. She's 33 and changing it, making gangs, like, I don't know, because I always research stuff. I was like, we should do that, but do an eyes, and now this editing digital team came up with like the most amazing mood board for me, and so it takes a village sometimes. But yeah, it's gonna good. I think it's gonna be good.
So last question from off the top of the dome. Can you explain the importance of research as far as like in your profession in public relations and marketing? Because right now in some of my courses we are I guess you could say putting together deliverables, and my professor, she keeps explaining the importance of research, because that's initially the first step in anything.
I love your professor. I literally just said that in the teacher. So obviously you're in school right now. Right. Everyone's in school. You're researching nonstop for different papers, for different presentations. Keep that same idea. The good thing is, so I'm a morning person, but you can do this late at night. You can do it whenever in the afternoon, you know? So if I have my morning meeting, first meeting 9:30, I wake up at 7, maybe even earlier, depending on whatever, and I always give myself an hour to 90 minutes of research, and that is going to Business of Fashion, that is going to my favorite websites, that's reading the New York Times, but it's always something that I want to make imperative, because I think where a lot of people falter, especially publicity, which you should know about, that people think it's a grinding wheel where you're like, okay, so you're going to give me all the creative and I'm just going to make this a press release and normal, like and we'll make sure it's like, which is important, but like as media director, because now I have coordinators and stuff to do that for me for my brands, and I'm do more big picture, but I used to do that. But every time I go in as the media and publicity director, I want to bring in creative, collaborative ideas, like, or, oh, you should check out this e-commerce that just launched because it'd be perfect for your brand or whatever, and that's all through research. And if you know, I don't know if I didn't know I was going to be an art director of a television show. You know what I mean? They offered it to me. I'm like, sure, let's do it. I didn't even know what that really meant, but I knew I could figure it out before, on my way, and it's become a huge success, and they want me back for all these other things I was just talking about. So, it's because I think that I might not be a scholar in a certain, like, philosophy, or I might not be you know what I mean? I might not be able to tell you about Europeans' historic wars, I know a little bit, but I went to school, but what I do know is a little bit about a lot of things, and like how I can position it walking into that room and giving a unique approach that they might not have thought about. And that's all through research.
I'm just taking it all in because
give yourself an hour every day. I know it's so hard, but give yourself an hour of every day of just reading what you want to read, but on the internet. We have the internet. There's no excuse. I don't know. I mean, if I might not have been doing that with the Dewey Decimal System, but it's literally a click on any tablet.
Right. So easy. With all that you do, can you describe some of the benefits a professional in your field would experience if they were a strong writer?
Yeah, I mean, for media, you'll be writing your entire career. I think in media, art, fashion, even designers, like even the creative designers, they have to write out when they go into their production meetings and try to get budgets from their investors. They even have to write out what their collection is going to look like, where they're going to see it, what projection. So to be a concise, great writer with a unique approach is so imperative. And it's something that also you can research and learn. If you want to be a features fashion editor, there's great things you can read. Go to Vanity Fair and read some of their in-depth editorials, not just in fashion, but they did an awesome one on like that Harvard scandal that was like, I just read that on the plane. I was like, that is such good writing in the media sector that you can learn from. So, and you're getting the basics in the education from school, you know what I mean, which is so important. And using like this program, like the right attitude, and then you just have to take it and keep researching on how it's going to change and how it is changing with the digital and social media push and whatever comes next.
All right. So, how have you grown in your profession because of writing?
How have I grown in my profession? That's a good one. I think I've grown, this last year I've learned a whole new form of writing, or taken like these bare minimums I barely remember from Arizona State because I hadn't used them for so long, and all the broadcasts and the treatments and those types of pitching, like I just learned a whole new form of writing for broadcasts, like through my producers, and it's been amazing. And for me, there was a lot of meetings, a lot of like pitch meetings that I didn't need to be as the director, but I would go with all these young kids and listen to how they're going to do the social media and stuff because I didn't know about it. Research, you know what I mean? I would sit in there and I would just learn it because why not know? I don't know if I'll ever know 360, but I want to know at least like 290 to 320. You know what I mean? Like that's my goal for every job I have.
All right. So what are some bad things that can happen in your profession if a person is not a good writer?
You're not going to, when it comes to media and press, you're not going to be able to, if you can't tell this brand story, whatever that brand is, and tell their collections and not along with the visuals, you have to have such good like verbiage. So if you can't describe that in these emails or describe that in these presentations or these press previews that you have, you won't be able to make them international or national successes, and then you're going to lose those clients. So you have to, the thing is about fashion designers, I love all my clients, but everybody thinks they're creative. So everybody thinks they have the best idea, the best product, which that's why they are successful, because they are so passionate about it. So you have to be able to tell that story in realistic approaches, but make sure it is known and it is truthful, but it also gives like this eye of mystery and like, beauty, because in my industry, that's what it needs, and you have to evoke that through your writing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a very busy person. I know this just by listening to you talk. What do you do to ensure that you are always improving your writing?
I always, like I said, take an hour a day for research. And I also will turn off the clock when it's time to turn off the clock. In media, which you'll find is you're always on the clock, because I haven't done an out of office email in I would say since I moved to New York.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm never out of the office. Unless I did once when I was like out in the middle of nowhere shooting in Mexico. You know what I mean? And maybe I've done it, but like when I'm in Paris or when I'm in London, I let my clients know. I'll write back, oh, I'm 5 hours ahead, but I am always on. Except when I turn off the clock, I turn off the clock. Like there will be no like looking at my email Thanksgiving Day and even that Friday morning because I'll be with the family down here. You know what I mean? So I cherish those times, but yeah, that's probably it. And time management.
Yeah, time
you
management.
got time management. That's all. I schedule everything because a little my brain's weird, but I'm always like, all right, 12:15 to 12:30 is this, 12:30 to 12:45.
Right.
I'm like crazy like that, but it works for me. Unless you're waiting for your family to get ready in the morning, but then other than that, it's solid. Yeah, so great. That's the one thing I've always been good at. I will say there's a lot. I have a lot of flaws, like we all do. I'm very good at time management.
Wow, that's truly a blessing.
Yeah.
So, what was one of the most challenging things that you have ever experienced in your career, and how did it help or benefit you?
The most challenging things I've ever had in my career. I worked for a website startup, ecommerce, that and I was hired as the media director, and I had a lot of things going for it, and we got great publicity, and I brought in tons of collaborations, and the back end of the website was not prepared, and there was a lot of people not getting the job done, and it was getting more and more frustrating for me in these meetings, and I'm a person with the time management. If you aren't productive, me and you are not going to. It's hard for me to keep my patience. Let's just say that. So to a fault on that point. So that was a really difficult time for me, and I had to leave this position that I built so many things. But I left it. I chose to leave. But I felt like I was leaving like this half project done, and it drove me crazy. Because the website had so much potential, and it was out of my control, which also drives me crazy. So I had to leave that earlier than I wanted, and it has folded since then, so it's good in hindsight, but I think that was a really frustrating one for me as a director, having to leave this team underneath me who are part of it was so great, but I just didn't think it was beyond my control, and I just didn't think it was going to be a success no matter how hard we tried. So sometimes and no bridges were burned. The CEO still loves me. He's Parisian and crazy and calls me every day to hang out. But sometimes you gotta God, I hate saying call it quits, but sometimes you have to leave something if you, in your gut, it's not right. Oprah said, always trust your gut. I trust in my gut.
So what are some of the challenges you face on a day-to-day basis when it comes to maintaining or trying to increase the strength of a brand, just in general?
A lot of times it's sometimes frustrating, and I've gotten better at this, because when you work in agency, you're given the clients from the agency. When you're fresh out of college, you're not going to be choosing the client that you're going to tell you. So I've gotten better as I've gone on to select clients who I think can really succeed, rather than just like, good, another client, more monthly retainers, you know what I mean? But because it can be pretty difficult with some, especially fashion designers, to give them the realistic outcomes and realistic goals. I think they think they're going to, like I said, number one hit all ways, and a lot of times I have to reel them back in and let them say, this is going to be an ongoing process, and you might do great, you might not, we'll see how it goes. But those are all always challenging things to hear, because nobody in the creative fashion world wants to hear that they might not be the best. So that can be, and that happens quite a bit, in different ways. So
So quick. I'm sorry.
No, but it's just for that is I feel like a lot of publicists and them always make it a rosy picture. Oh, we got this, no problem, and it's all BS. And and don't do that. It's better just to say how it's going to go and what you think it's going to go, because they're going to appreciate that in the long run.
Right. So quick question. For students like me who are pursuing a degree in public relations, as far as internships, with companies or something like that, just to get their feet wet, where do you recommend, what cities do you recommend they go to?
Well, if it's PR, I mean publicity, like for PR, it depends on the sector. If you were doing what I do is fashion PR, so obviously, you know, it depends.
Right.
SCAD, you know, there's amazing designers here. You know what I mean, that are young and emerging in Savannah. I'm sure there's some here at Savannah State too. You can really do that. It has to be a creative capital. Obviously, New York, LA are the biggest here. Chicago has a cool thing. For television and media, for my series, it's gonna be LA and New York. But you can always do your local stations to start. I did when I came home for a summer. I was the producer. It was the first summer after Arizona State, and I went home to my small town in Oregon, and I was a producer at KDRV local channel 12. And I will say, that year before I moved to Portland and got bigger things, I was also working at a restaurant at night and getting up at 5 a.m. It was a weird, rough year. But it was a great year. But I will say, it's so funny because that local news station, I knew what broadcast treatment was a little bit when I got into for Viacom Netflix. You know what I mean? Right. I was like, oh, I know what a tagline is. I know what producer want to do. I remember that. So you can kind of do it anywhere, especially for interning. But definitely try to intern on your summers off. Definitely, people look at that. If you are able to, you can research, and there are different programs. I know Viacom has an internship program in New York where I think they try to help subsidize in rent control because New York's so expensive, which I know. But if you can, maybe do one summer up at a bigger, or do it in Atlanta, or you know what I mean. I think that's great for a bigger corporation, but definitely there's really ones local that you can scout out and find.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any last words or advice that you would like to leave our audience with in regards to the world of arts and media?
It's always changing. Be ready to go with the flow because it's always changing. There's crazy personalities in there, but it always makes it fun while challenging. And my last one is continue to research because it's so fast-paced and changing and pivotal, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Right. You know what I mean? To keep on top, just make sure to research and walk into a room knowing you can put in some of your 2 cents, and you'll never just be sitting at the table taking the notes. Always give a few ideas.
Right. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of QEP, we are so glad that you came again.
It was fun. Yeah, we'll make it annual. Yeah, thank you.